So let's start off by looking at vectors and look at some of the methods that are associated with the vector. So we'll create a mutable vector called nums, and we're going to just put in values of I32, and we want our vector to be empty to start. So we saw this earlier in the course. We can use a push method to add values into the vector. So let's do that, and let's just add in a few values here. So one way that we can remove values off the top is by using a method called pop. And this actually returns a value. So we can actually say let pop equals num.pop, and then we can print out this value. Does not implement, so there we go. So now we can run this, and we can see that we returned sum 3. So this returns an option of type t. So remember, this can either return none or sum t. And in this case, it popped sum 3. So think of this as a stack of plates. So we're going to push plates onto the top, and then when we pop, we want to take off the last plate, so in this case 3, that we pushed onto the stack. So we can also, just as a review, reference some of the numbers. So we can say let 2 equals num1, and since we're doing I32, this would just be a simple copy. But if we were doing another value that doesn't implement copy, we could create a reference to it in this case. So creates a reference if copy is not available. And then just to show you that we were able to successfully copy it, we'll say 2, and we'll run it, and we got 2. So great. So there's a couple of other ways that we're able to return values. One of them being let 1 equals num.first. And as you can imagine, this is going to return to us the first value in our vector. But again, this is going to return an option t. So it's going to be none if the vector is empty, or sum t if the vector is not empty, because we're going to take out the first index. So we want to return we want to get the first value. So let's make sure that 1 successfully did just that for us. So 1. And we returned sum 1, which is great. That's the expected value that we were anticipating. So we can also do dot last, and just like first, instead of it being first, this is going to return the last value in the vector. But we also have dot first mute and dot last mute. And kind of as the name suggests, it's going to be the same as first and last, but it's going to borrow mutable references. We'll borrow mutable references. So if we want to check out the length of our vector, we can do nums.length, len, short for length. And then if we want to do a quick check to just see if our vector is empty, we can do nums.isEmpty, and this is going to return a Boolean, whereas this will actually return a value of the length. Another way that we can add values inside a vector is using insert. But insert's going to allow us to insert at the index of our choice. So we can say insert at index 0, so the first index, and we want to insert 10. But we can also say nums dot insert at 3, and we'll put in 12, and then we can do nums dot insert 2, and we can put in the value of 25. So, like insert, we can remove with nums.remove, and then we can just specify the index that we want to remove. So in this case, let's remove index 3. And then if we want to sort everything out, we can do nums.sort. And now let's look to see how it would appear sorted, just to make sure everything looks good. And now we're going to do nums. So we run it. We see we have 1, 10, 12, and 25. Looks sorted to me. And we can also run a method such as reverse, which is going to do what we expect it to do, which is just going to reverse this. So in this case, since we already sorted it, I expect it to be 25, 12, 10, and 1, which is great. That's exactly what we got. So something else that we can do is we can actually have our vector shuffled. So in order for us to do this, we need to go into our cargo.toml file, and we need to specify that we want to bring in the rand package. So we're going to say rand, and then we're going to do version 0.8.4, which is the latest version of rand at the time of this recording. We'll save that file, and then we'll come to the top outside of main, and we're going to say use rand seek and slice random, and then we're going to say use rand thread RNG. And now down here we can say nums.shuffle, and it's going to say want a mutable reference to the value generated to us by thread random number generator. That is what RNG stands for. And now if we print this out, it's going to shuffle our vector for us. And we'll run this a couple of times just to make sure that it is being shuffled. And we got 10, 25, 1, and 12. And then we got 12, 1, 25, and 10. And then we got 10, 12, 25, and 1. So it does appear to be shuffling as we intended. So these are just some examples of what vectors have to offer in Rust. There are many more methods we can use, so I do encourage you to play around with all the methods associated with vectors. That way you become familiar with all the methods we have at our disposal.